Are you like me and the beginning of this season with all of your holiday products and things that you've accumulated over time, it just starts to feel kind of claustrophobic and stifles that creative energy? Well, join me today and get some of your crafty space organized and destashed as well, so we can jump into the new year with a crafty, excited mindset. This video is going to be a little bit longer this time. I hope that you enjoy the process of organizing my art cart with me today. If you are joining along with me and destashing, organizing an area of your studio, let me know in the comments down below and tell me how much of your project you're able to get accomplished this week. If you're just tuning in and watching to have a good time, grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and let's get started. What you can see on my cart right now, the top shelf is my December daily product. So this is all Christmas. The bottom shelf here has my stash of journaling cards, just extra cards that I've pulled from kits that I haven't used, as well as a bunch of Brandy Kincaid Extravagant Hope products, which are going to be postcards and journaling cards and stickers and knickknacks and all different kinds of things aimed at bringing you hope in the mail. So I've got a bunch of that here. And then the bottom shelf is where I currently have all of my extra embellishments stored. So all of the chipboard or the textured elements that might come in a scrapbooking kit. After I've used up the kit and I need to put the rest of it into stash, it goes into the bins down here. So what I'm going to do is get everything off of this cart. I'm going to put it up here on my table, and then we're going to go through all of it to figure out what stays and what goes. So we're here at my desk where I've got everything on top of it except for one bin, which is actually probably the first thing I'm going to go through. It's products that I've collected over the years that are December daily themed, but products that I chose not to bring out this year to use. So I'm going to go through that first and see if there's anything in that bin that I want to keep before moving on to the products that I did use this year. So I'm going to push this kind of to the sides here, bring up that bin, and let's start by going through that one first. When going through the bin of supplies here, most of these items are going to go directly into my donate pile, especially since I already went through an entire December daily season where I chose not to use these. Some of the items are more lifestyle, an ornament and a pin, and those I'm going to set aside, as well as these little containers into my December decor. And then we're going to go through these little baggies of items. This is filled up with some rubber embellishments. So let's pull these out and see what we've got. So we've got a Santa, Merry Christmas, these December moments, the magic of this story, remember, reflect, rejoice. I still really like these all. So I'm going to keep these. I like the colors of them. They're a little bit different than normal with the teals in there, but I do have some additional rubber pieces that I'm going to pull out to add into the bag with these. Let me grab those. All right, so I also have the word December, which I love the word December, definitely keeping that. And I've also got these 5 tag shapes that I will keep. So it's just making a decision because I probably will not use these all next year. And then will I just continue to hold on to them or what? Let's think about this for a moment. So questions I ask myself as I am destashing. You know, what am I actually going to use? And are there any pieces that I can use outside of December? Which I think all of these are probably a no on that front. Let's keep, because no, I definitely don't need all of these pieces. I won't use them all. I already know that. So I'm thinking I'm going to keep the tags because I like the repetition of the shape. I will let go of this tag. I really love the wreath that says these December moments. So I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to keep the December word, and I will keep the Santa. but these other pieces can go into a de-stash. Through the rest of these little bags, I've got one filled with a strand of lights from Tim Holtz that I'm going to keep for one more year, a packet of puffy stickers that are going directly into the de-stash. I'm also picking out 3 of the 5 metal clock frames from Tim Holtz. I don't need to keep them all, so a few I will let go. And then this is a packet of stamps that I've collected through the years, and I'm going to continue collecting those until I have enough to do something cool. So next up is going to be papers. These are just some additional containers for holding things. These I am keeping. Let's go through the papers. In here, I do have a bunch of stencils. So maybe I'll look at the stencils and see if there are any that are not December or any that I can use for something beyond just December. For example, the tag shapes are great for any time. So I'll keep that one out. This one here has Santa faces. That's very Christmassy, so I'm going to put that in a pile for Christmas. This one has a floral on it, which I think can really be used for any time, so I'll keep that out for any time. This one says merry and bright, so Christmas for you. So for this, I'm going to store these inside of a 7 by 10, I believe this is, plastic pocket. And then this can go in with my mixed media collection. And then these will go in a same sized envelope, but will be stored in with my December daily. And then as we go through the rest of these papers and vellums and acetates and all of that kind of stuff, I'm going to ask myself the same questions. Is this paper one that I can use outside of December and just put it into my regular stash? Is this paper a paper that is December themed? It would go in my December product and I like it enough that I will use it next year. Or is this a paper that I will not use and it should just go into a pile of product to be destashed? So we're going to separate this into those 3 different piles and then move on from there. As I'm going through this process of figuring out which products to keep and which products to let go of, I am fairly ruthless. I really only want to keep the products that I love the most and that I can realistically use in the products or the projects that I intend to create throughout the course of the year. As my stash has grown throughout the years, I have always felt that I have this unnecessary pressure that comes from a desire to use all of the things that I buy. And when I'm not able to fulfill that expectation, I then feel guilt over all of the products I have in my stash. So this process is incredibly important for me, and it's important for me to only keep a very small stash that is realistic for the year ahead. All right, so next up, we're going to go through this first tiered organizer. A lot of what is located in this are going to be more papers, more transparencies, some stamps, and then a couple of embellishments. So we're just going to go pocket by pocket, pull everything out, and do the exact same thing. So pile to keep, pile to add to regular stash, and pile to donate. Thought that's going through my head as I'm going through this process is this constant reminder that when the new season of December Daily Documenting comes around in 2023, I am most likely going to accumulate a lot of new product because that's what's going to be the most exciting in the moment. And because of that, it is unlikely that I will use a ton of product from past collections. So that's also helping me to really narrow down what it is I want to keep for using potentially in my projects next year or in the years to come after that.
because as we go through this process year after year and we have a set of items that we just really love and want to use, that backstash is also going to continue to grow. So for me, I want to get rid of at least half and maybe even more than half of the products that I have left over. Once I have this process finished for the products you see here on the table, I actually go through all the rest of my December daily off screen and do this exact same thing with everything else I had left. And I did end up getting rid of, I would say roughly maybe 3/4 of what I had in my stash, which left me with just this one 13 by 13 iris container filled with supplies that I will add into my December daily supplies for next year. Next, we're going to move on to One Little Word. This is a project that I take part in every year where we select a word as a lens for the year and then have a year-long documenting project to really commemorate the journeys with our words. I have collected supplies for this project through the years and have a ton of stuff. So I'm going to go through the exact same process here. First, I've taken out all of my past supplies and I'm going to go through all of it to see, is there anything that is relatable to the word that I have chosen this year, which is the word less? Are there any products that are general enough that they could work for any word, or general enough that they could just go into my regular stash? And are there any products that I just want to go ahead and let go of for this year? Once I have that process done, I'm then going to turn to my new product that I have for this year. Now, most of the products I really love from the new collection. There are a few items that I'm not super crazy about, and I'm just gonna go ahead and let go of those right up front, so I don't even have to have the stress over using or not using the product throughout this year. And then we're going to add everything into this tiered organizer, which will go back into my cart once this process is done. When I'm working with different projects throughout the year, I love keeping all of the products that go to those projects contained in one space. It makes it really easy to just pull out what I'm going to need for working on the project, in this case with the project life. When I'm going to work on my monthly prompt, I can just pull out this tiered organizer and I have all of my supplies at my fingertips. Inside of these tiered organizers, I also have a couple of divided containers that allows me to put in the smaller pieces and have them in an organized fashion, but they are contained within the tiered organizer, keeping everything together. So you see I have a couple, I just put one in just a second ago. I'm going to work on a second one here, and then it just allows me a really easy way to see everything that I have, to know everything that I could potentially work with as I'm working on my layouts. Included in the collection of One Little Word supplies this year were some of these 11 by 8¼ papers that include the 6 by 8 prompt page and then a section that has a different color. I'm going to go ahead and trim the color off and then trim the 6 by 8 papers down to a true 6 by 8 size, making them easier to just grab out of my tiered organizer and use when that prompt comes up in the classroom this year.
All right, so now that we've got my One Little Word project, or my one little word supplies, all destashed and ready to be put away. Next, I want to move on to the second tier of that rolling cart. And in this one, the first container here holds all of my journaling cards that I have not used from various kits and various companies. So this is just my stash of 3x4, 4x6, and then some miscellaneous things here in the back. So we're going to go through these and do the same thing all over again, except this time we're just going to create two piles, one for keep and one for donate. So let's get started.
Going through my stash of journaling cards, I have so many that I have kept for a number of years, just waiting for the right story to make itself known that I can use that card with, and it's never happened. So this year I'm deciding I'm just going to let those go. Worst case, if a story comes up and all of a sudden I need a card that is similar to one that I just got rid of, most of these cards I own digitally, so I can just go ahead and reprint them. And even if I don't own them digitally, there is a good chance that a card with that sentiment will be created in the year ahead. So it's going to be okay. And I would rather let those cards go so I don't feel this burden of having to tell a story or having to have a story in order to use that card with. It's just going to be freeing to let that go. The second set of cards here are all from different companies other than Ali Edwards. I primarily use Ali Edwards products in my scrapbooking, and I find that I don't often go into my stash of cards from these other companies. I have some that were Feature Craft and some that were Paper Person and some that were even from back in the Kelly Perky days. Just a ton of cards that really I've never found a reason to use in the last 4 years, and I probably won't this year as well. So out they go. Once I have my stash of cards selected that I'm going to be keeping, which I do have a very small collection by choice. I want my stash of excess cards to be just like my December daily products, the things that I love the most, to have a manageable amount of cards, so enough that I can just quickly go through them to see if anything is going to strike my fancy, and that I can realistically use for the stories that are coming up in the year or two ahead. After that, I then divide the cards out into 3 categories. The first is going to be my journaling cards. So these are cards where there is space intended for you to add words or pictures to the cards themselves. The second category are my filler cards. So these are ones with sentiments or images that are meant to be more decorative for your page. And the third category is my patterns. So any pattern that you can add something to, it can become a title card or that sort of thing.
It is Tuesday afternoon, so the next day I ended up coming home after getting the kids yesterday and just needed to get a bunch of other things done, so never got back to the reorganization project we were working on. While I was out grocery shopping yesterday, I picked up 2 of these containers from a local Meijer, which is basically like a local superstore, almost like a Walmart. And they are double-sided multi-craft carriers that are intended for things like yarn or embroidery floss, those types of things. And I'm thinking about reorganizing my embellishments into these containers and then storing these under my table. So just changing a little bit of the flow of where things are located, which will mean that the art cart will no longer house all of my miscellaneous embellishments. So I can use that bottom tray for more project-based storage, which was really exciting for me. Another thing that I did today was I sat down and wrote out a list of the projects that I'm going to be working on this year, which include things like One Little Word, my yearbook, which is essentially an annual or weekly, monthly documenting project that goes all year round. So that's very seasonal type of documenting. I've also got, what else did I write down in there? My children's albums, which I'll probably put in with this seasonal documenting products, just because those are all happening month to month. So a lot of the products that I use are the same between all of them. I may have a section for travel, or a section for definitely for my planners and my journals, those sort of things. And then I took the list and I drew out mock-ups of the 3 different levels so I could figure out what's going to go where. And then this is what I'm going to use when we put everything back into the cart. Before we get to that, I do have one last section of stuff to go through. Some of that is the embellishments. So we're going to go ahead, and as I go through those, we'll put them into the new containers. I have more than those in my studio. Like, embellishments are everywhere, so I need to just compile and put them all into these containers. But for now, we're just going to worry about the ones that were originally stored in the art cart. Okay, I'm going to stop jabbering and start organizing.
I'm getting started with this process by going through the largest embellishments first. These are the pieces that are not going to fit inside of my plastic bin, and so they will have a different area for storage. When I was organizing my cards the day before, I left the back section of that organizer free to add in some of these larger pieces. And I'm also using one of the 3x4 areas for the smaller tag shapes that are still too big for the plastic organizer, but fit better into that area. Then I'm going to pull over all of my supplies and get them onto my desk so I can see everything as I begin to organize it. When I pulled over my plastic container, I had a bit of a realization that there are some thumb holes in between each of the sections inside of the plastic. So when I store this on its side, all of those pieces are going to mix together, and that's going to be a complete nightmare. So that is not going to work for me, and I need to go and get a different bin system maybe later in the day. Now, as I'm going through my embellishments here, which I chose to just go ahead and continue with this process today, and that way when I do have my new bins and I bring them home, I don't have to worry about figuring out what to keep and what to let go of. All I have to do is figure out how to store, how to organize what I am going to keep. This process is the exact same process that we've gone through for everything else so far. So being ruthless, absolutely ruthless with what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to let go of, and bringing my embellishment stash down by about 75%. So I'm only keeping about 25% of what I have collected.
What I have left to do with this project, with this organizational project, is to put everything back into the art cart over there. That's why I look over there. And then also to go ahead and purchase whatever storage I need for all of my embellishments. Hoping to get all of this into 1 or 2 embroidery floss containers. The problem, let me grab this real quick. The problem that I ran into with this box, which I thought was going to be the ideal box. However, I didn't realize that there are dips. There's like little thumb holes right here. So if I were to put embellishments in here and then flip the box over and it shakes around, everything's gonna mix. So this isn't gonna work. So I'll have to take this back the next time I go grocery shopping. And I think I might go to my local Michael's this afternoon to pick up some embroidery floss boxes to put all of this into. And that way we can get this project finished tomorrow. One more day. One more day. I'll tell you what, organizing a craft studio is no joke. It's like a whole job, a whole hobby in and of itself. It's crazy. Because this is just one tiny little section of my, it's like the smallest section of my studio, and it's taken me 3 days, or will take me 3 days to get this done. Anyway, that's just to say that, you know, sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer because you need to have the right tools, you need to have time in your day, and also it takes time just to think about how you're going to organize it so that it works for you. All right, friends, I'm gonna head out to the store, go get an embroidery floss box or 2, and then I'll see you back here tomorrow again when we pick this back up and get this project finished. We're back again for one final day of working on this project. It is currently Wednesday afternoon, so the next day even, and I was able to secure two bins that are going to work for my embellishments. These bins were both purchased at Michael's, and they were on sale for 50% off. So they ended up being around $2 a piece, which is super reasonable. I am hoping that 2 is enough. If not, I think I might have room for 1 more, and I could probably still make it to the store in order to get 1 more this week, but I'm hoping that 2 is going to be enough. So what I'm going to do is take all of these embellishments that I have had already organized yesterday, and we're just going to put them into the new bins. I am starting with size. Actually, I'm probably starting with size or shape is what I'm trying to say, shape. Starting with the shape of the item itself, and then depending on how many areas I have to work with, I might then subdivide it into categories based on color as well. Or if they're in a series of 5 where they're numbered 1 through 5 or 1 through 7, anything like that. So I think that's how I'm going to go about this. So let's go ahead, turn you over to desk view and organize some embellishments so we can get this organizational project done.
Since the previous day had been the day that I cut my stash down and only kept the pieces that I absolutely loved, today all I have to do is bring everything back out, going shape by shape and figuring out how I want to store it inside of these containers and how subdivided I want those to be. It does take me a little bit of time to figure out the system that's going to work best for me. I started by dividing everything into piles based on the size, which I decided would be probably a little bit easier for me to find what I'm looking for when I'm going through these to embellish a page. I generally look at specific shapes first, and then because I really love repetitive items, I will try to use all of the shapes that are relatively the same size at least. So I subdivided based on size, shape first, then size, and then I will start to place them inside of the divided container. I will eventually realize that I have too many subdivisions to fit everything into the 2 bins, so I will combine a couple of things where it makes sense. For example, I will combine most of the smallest sizes of the circles into 1 container. I will combine the outline circles with a similar sized chipboard circle shape as well. I will put all of the oval shapes together because I don't have a ton of those, so I might as well keep them all together, those types of things. And then eventually I will get this down to where I've got everything stored in the container, including my divided out refrigerator tiles separated out by color, which I'm super excited about. Finally, any of the embellishments that were too large to fit into the new plastic containers, I am placing those into the divided container with my cards and embellishments from the other day.
All right, friends, so I've got all of my organization done, and now the last step is just to put everything back in the cart. So I'm going to take you along for the process of this. It's going to be super quick because everything's just ready to plop in the cart. I'll explain what the sections are for, and then we're going to be done. So let's stock the cart.
starting with the top tier of my cart, I'm adding in the tiered organizer that holds all of my one little word supplies. I also have this extra thick piece of chipboard that helps to hold my larger papers upright. So I've got the one little word papers behind the one little word divided container. I've got a couple of templates there and pieces that help me to print journaling onto my cards, and that goes behind the chipboard piece. I do have another organizational container on its way to me from scrapbook.com that's going to be a place for my sticker books that I use for journaling and planning. The second tier of my cart holds 2 additional tiered organizers. The first holds all of the supplies for my yearbook, which is a combination between Project Life and story albums. Inside of that organizer, I have 12 envelopes that hold supplies that are specific to the 12 months of the year, making it easier for me to create a chronological project using products specific to the months. And I also have my most current Stories by the Month kit out in the open in that container. The second container holds my products for unfinished projects, which is what I'm working on over in my Patreon. So that stuff will go into that tiered organizer. And then on the bottom tier of my cart, I've got the container with my excess supplies, some die cuts behind that, and an empty organizer for whatever fits my needs.
All right, friends, that concludes my studio organization project for this week. It took me a bit longer than I expected it to, but I'll tell you what, it feels so good to have that done. I have a few other projects in my studio, a few more spaces that I'd like to clear out, clean up, destash, donate, and reorganize. Let me know in the comments down below if that's a process that you would like to come along the journey for, or if there are any other studio organization types of content that you would be interested in seeing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this video inspires you to clear out a section of your crafty space, to go ahead and donate those things that you're definitely not going to use without feeling the guilt of needing to hold on to it for that perfect project. And I hope that in general, you just feel inspired to create. I definitely feel inspired to be in this space and to create some layouts in the days to come. Until next time, friends, I hope you have an awesome rest of your weekend ahead and your week next week. I'll see you back here next Friday. See you later, friends. Bye now.